Are you tired of starting your fat loss journey and, well, seeing no results? Despite putting in so much effort, you're hitting the gym, you're trying to eat better, and yet sometimes it just feels like you're stuck in neutral, or maybe even worse, kind of moving backwards. It's a really frustrating place to be, and trust me, you're absolutely not alone in feeling that way. That sort of gnawing sense of, why isn't this working, can be incredibly disheartening. But what if I told you there's a clear, science-backed way to unlock your true potential, to, shed those extra pounds once and for all? What if there was a blueprint that actually works, and crucially, explains why it works? Okay, so let's unpack this. Our mission in this deep dive is to explore exactly that blueprint. We're dissecting a comprehensive guide titled The Ultimate Guide to Fat Loss. Unlock your body's potential for a transformative journey. And this isn't just about the number on the scale, right? It's about understanding your body at a fundamental level and igniting a transformation rooted deeply in scientific understanding.
So whether you're just taking your very first steps into a health journey, or maybe you faced countless obstacles and disappointments in the past, or perhaps you're currently pushing through what feels like an endless, soul-crushing plateau, well, this deep dive is for you. We're here to try and cut through the noise, provide you with actionable strategies, insights, things that empower you, not just to understand what's happening inside your body, but to actually truly succeed. This is really about giving you a clear, science-backed roadmap for lasting, sustainable change.
Yeah, it's interesting how this guide immediately taps into that shared frustration so many people feel. It doesn't just throw solutions at you. It acknowledges the struggle first, which I think builds immediate credibility. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, it suggests that success in fat loss isn't purely about, brute willpower, which often fails us, let's be honest. Instead, it's profoundly about getting the right knowledge and then applying a strategic approach. It's about working with your body, not constantly fighting against it.
That's a really powerful distinction, working with your body. And it brings us perfectly into our first segment, the foundational science of fat loss. And right off the bat, the guide challenges a huge misconception, something I think many of us automatically assume. It makes it abundantly clear that fat loss isn't just about restricting food or simply going on a diet. We often boil it down to that, don't we?
Oh, absolutely, we do. And that reductionist view is often where people get stuck. The source states very clearly that it's a combination of a caloric deficit, exercise, hormonal balance, and mental discipline. So that immediately broadens our perspective way beyond just what's on your plate, although that's still paramount, of course. It emphasizes viewing the body not as a simple calculator, but as a, quote, complex machine that adapts over time. And this insight is crucial because it tells us up front that patience is a key component. It's not a quick fix, it's more like an ongoing negotiation with your own biology.
So it's definitely not a simple linear journey then if our bodies are constantly adapting. This idea of the body as a complex machine that really resonates. It implies it's constantly reacting, doesn't it? Reacting to what we eat, how we move, even how we manage stress. It's not just an on-off switch.
Precisely. Your body is an incredibly intelligent, survival-driven system. Think of it like a highly efficient financial planner. The moment it senses a recession, like a significant calorie cut, it starts to conserve resources. So when you introduce changes, whether that's eating less or moving more, your body responds and adapts. Now, this adaptation can be incredibly beneficial, leading to greater efficiency. But if you don't understand it, it can also lead to those frustrating plateaus. For instance, that initial rapid weight loss people often see, it usually slows down. Why? Because your body adjusts its metabolic rate as you shed pounds, and it simply needs less energy to move a smaller body mass. That's why patience isn't just a virtue here, it's really a scientific necessity when you're dealing with such an adaptive system. Understanding this from the outset helps manage expectations and, crucially, prevents people from just giving up when progress isn't a perfectly straight line down. It's about knowing why things are happening, not just what.
Okay, let's get to the undeniable truth then, the absolute bedrock of all fat loss, the caloric deficit. The guide defines it simply: consuming fewer calories than your body burns. Now, on the surface, that sounds pretty straightforward, but what's the real mechanism happening there? What makes it so non-negotiable?
Well, the mechanism is quite fundamental. It's basically rooted in the laws of thermodynamics, just applied to us, to the human body. When you create this caloric deficit, you're essentially creating an energy imbalance. Simple as that. Your body still needs a certain amount of energy just to function. Breathing, thinking, blood circulation, cell repair, moving around, even digesting food takes energy. If it doesn't get enough of that energy from the food you eat on a given day, it has to find that energy somewhere else. And where does it look? To its stored fat as fuel. It's your body literally converting those stored energy reserves, your fat cells, into usable energy to make up the difference. It's a physiological imperative, really.
And the source makes it unequivocally clear. It says, quote, "A caloric deficit is the only way to lose fat."
That's an incredibly bold, definitive statement, especially when you think about all the fad diets out there promising magic solutions without ever mentioning calories. Why do you think this fundamental principle is still so misunderstood, or maybe even actively ignored by so many people, even when the science is so clear? What's the biggest barrier to just accepting this truth?
That's a crucial question. I think the biggest barrier is often a mix of things. Unrealistic expectations, definitely. A lack of accurate information, or maybe too much conflicting information. And let's be real, the inherent difficulty of consistent self-monitoring. It's hard work. Many people hear caloric deficit and immediately think starvation or deprivation, which absolutely isn't the case for a sustainable deficit. The guide, through Bold Brain Studio, really emphasizes understanding how energy balance works. It notes that many people fail due to unrealistic expectations. They might expect to lose 10 pounds a week, or they believe that just cutting out carbs will magically bypass physics. Or maybe they aren't accurately tracking their intake. It's incredibly easy to underestimate calories you eat and overestimate calories you burn through exercise. We all do it. Or they fall prey to marketing that suggests some special food or supplement or workout type can somehow circumvent this basic biological need for an energy imbalance. But the truth remains, if your body isn't getting less energy than it expends, it simply has no physiological reason to tap into its stored fat reserves. That's why understanding this is actually quite liberating, because it puts the ultimate control back in your hands.
Right. So if that's the foundation, and knowing it's often misunderstood, our next segment really dives into the minefield, as you called it, of common mistakes. These are the pitfalls that often lead directly back to that frustration we talked about at the start. It seems really crucial to understand these errors to avoid making them ourselves.
Absolutely. Awareness of these common errors is honestly half the battle won. They often involve, good intentions gone slightly astray, or just a simple misunderstanding of how the body truly works when it comes to fat loss. People often adopt strategies that sound logical on the surface, but end up being counterproductive in the long run.
Okay, mistake number one. This is something I think a lot of us have probably tried at some point, or at least been tempted by. The danger of extreme calorie restriction. We think, well, if a little deficit is good, then a massive one must be better, faster. Right. But the guide details a real problem with this approach. It explains that extreme restriction often leads to muscle loss and metabolic slowdown.
Can you tell us a bit more about how that actually plays out in the body? Yeah, this is such a classic, well-intentioned trap. While cutting calories is crucial, like we said, your body is profoundly intelligent and its top priority is survival, always. When you severely restrict calories, especially for a long time, your body basically perceives it as a famine, a genuine threat to its existence. And in response, it triggers this sort of two-pronged counterproductive strategy. First, it starts breaking down muscle tissue for fuel. Why? Because muscle is metabolically expensive to maintain. It's a readily available source of amino acids for energy when food is scarce. Second, it deliberately slows down your metabolism. This is often referred to as metabolic adaptation or adaptive thermogenesis. This means your body becomes incredibly efficient at running on fewer calories. It starts burning fewer calories at rest, trying to make every single calorie count.
Wow, so like your body literally slams on the brakes of its internal engine. And that must make things incredibly difficult moving forward, right?
Exactly. As the source points out, this can actually make fat loss more challenging over time. You end up in a situation where you need even fewer calories just to maintain your new, slower metabolism. This makes any further fat loss incredibly difficult, almost like trying to squeeze water from a stone, as the saying goes. It creates this vicious cycle of frustration, intense hunger, really low energy levels, and often, unfortunately, rapid rebound weight gain once you inevitably stop the extreme restriction, because frankly, who can sustain that? It just completely undermines your long-term success and can even damage your relationship with food.
So the solution isn't deprivation, it's more strategic, a gentler approach. The guide advocates for a moderate calorie deficit, usually 10-20% less than your maintenance calories. First off, what does maintenance calories actually imply for the listener, and why is this 10-20% range considered the sweet spot?
Right. Maintenance calories basically refers to the number of calories your body needs each day just to maintain its current weight, given your specific activity level. It's your energy equilibrium point. So for example, if your body needs, let's say, 2,000 calories a day to stay at its current weight, a moderate deficit would mean aiming for somewhere between 1,600 and 1,800 calories per day. This 10-20% deficit is often called the sweet spot because it's significant enough to encourage consistent fat loss, typically around, 0.5 to maybe 1 kilogram per week, which is generally seen as sustainable. But it's not so drastic that it triggers those extreme counterproductive survival mechanisms we just talked about. It allows you to preserve your precious lean muscle mass, which is vital. It helps keep your metabolism healthier in the long run, and it helps maintain better energy levels and hormonal balance, making the whole process much more bearable and, well, sustainable. It's really about being effective without being destructive.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Moving on to mistake number 2, the cardio-only trap. I know so many people, myself included at one point, who just hit the treadmill or the elliptical for an hour every single day, believing that's the absolute fastest, most efficient way to shed pounds. And yes, the guide acknowledges cardio is a fantastic tool for burning calories, absolutely. But then it highlights this unsung hero, stating emphatically that strength training should be prioritized. Why is that the case? Why isn't just sweating it out on the elliptical enough on its own?
Yeah, this is where a lot of people miss out on truly transformative, long-lasting results. While cardio certainly burns calories during the workout itself, strength training does something fundamentally different. It builds and, importantly, preserves lean muscle mass. And here's the critical insight, the sort of metabolic magic, if you will. Muscle tissue is metabolically active. What that means is it burns calories even when you're completely at rest. So the more muscle you have, the higher your resting metabolic rate, or RMR. By prioritizing strength training, you're essentially building a more efficient fat-burning engine inside your body that works for you 24/7, even when you sleep, even when you're sitting watching TV.
Wow, so the metabolic magic isn't just about the calories burned during the workout, it's the calories you burn after, and even when you're literally doing nothing. It's a truly surprising fact for many people, I bet.
Exactly. It's like the gift that keeps on giving metabolically. By building that lean muscle, you increase your metabolism, making your body a more efficient fat-burning machine around the clock, plain and simple. The guide specifically recommends incorporating compound movements like squats, deadlifts, and bench presses. Now, these aren't just random exercises. They are multi-joint movements that engage large muscle groups all at the same time. This makes them incredibly efficient for building overall lean muscle mass, stimulating a greater hormonal response conducive to muscle growth, and burning more calories than isolation exercises like, say, just a bicep curl. It further optimizes your body's natural ability to burn fat. It's really about enhancing your body's core metabolic machinery rather than solely relying on the calories you burn in a single cardio session.
That's a huge insight for many people who might be stuck in that cardio rut. It really shifts the perspective, doesn't it? From just burning calories to building a more efficient calorie-burning body. And speaking of overlooked heroes, mistake number 3 highlights the hidden saboteurs: sleep and stress. The guide reiterates that fat loss isn't just about what you eat and how much you work out. This is something I think a lot of us just forget, or maybe conveniently ignore, in our quest for quick results.
Oh, definitely. And this raises a really important question. Why are sleep and stress so critical for fat loss? What's truly fascinating here is their profound and direct hormonal impact. It's not just about feeling tired or stressed out. The source specifically mentions how sleep plays a critical role in fat loss hormones like leptin and ghrelin. Now, leptin is often called the satiety hormone. It basically signals fullness to your brain, telling you, okay, you've had enough, you're satisfied. Ghrelin, on the other hand, is the hunger hormone, signaling to your brain that it's time to eat. When you don't get enough quality sleep, this very delicate hormonal balance gets thrown completely out of whack. Your leptin levels tend to go down, so you feel less full and less satisfied even after eating a decent meal. And simultaneously, your ghrelin levels go up, making you feel much hungrier, often specifically craving high-calorie, sugary, or fatty processed foods.
Wow, that's a powerful and almost insidious connection. So a lack of sleep isn't just about feeling groggy the next day. It's actively working against you, sabotaging your body's natural appetite regulation, making you crave more and feel less satisfied. That's tough. And then there's the stress component, which, let's face it, often goes hand in hand with poor sleep in our modern, fast-paced lives.
Exactly. They often fuel each other. Both poor sleep and chronic stress, especially the long-term, unmanaged kind, increase cortisol levels. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, and while it's essential for short-term fight or flight responses, like if you need to run from danger, chronically elevated cortisol is highly problematic for fat loss. Crucially, the guide states how this can lead to fat storage, especially around the abdominal area. When cortisol levels are consistently high, your body essentially goes into this kind of survival mode. It encourages fat storage, particularly that visceral fat deep around your organs, as a way to prepare for what it perceives as a prolonged period of threat or scarcity. It's your body's ancient, hardwired response to famine or danger, and unfortunately, it hasn't quite caught up to the fact that your stress might just be a looming work deadline or an overflowing email inbox, not an actual lion chasing you. So if you're meticulously tracking your food intake and smashing your workouts, but you're constantly sleep deprived and stressed to the max, you could be fighting a really tough uphill battle against your own biochemistry. This is a key, often overlooked insight because it highlights the truly holistic nature of fat loss. It's not just energy in, energy out, it's about the entire biochemical and psychological environment within your body.
This all really underscores that fat loss is a full body, full mind endeavor, isn't it? Encompassing much more than just diet and exercise. Which brings us perfectly to our next segment, the blueprint for success. And this starts with how to craft your roadmap through SMART goals. The guide calls using SMART goals one of the most effective ways to ensure sustained fat loss. Why is a goal-setting framework like this so critical when we're talking about something as, well, physiological as fat loss?
It's critical because without a clear target and a plan, even the most dedicated effort can feel aimless and, frankly, quickly lose momentum. What's so fascinating, I think, is how setting a precise goal, a SMART goal, provides not just clarity and direction, but also a built-in system for tracking your progress and sustaining your motivation over the long haul. It's an acronym, as many people know. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And each element serves a really crucial purpose in transforming a vague wish like, I want to lose weight, into a concrete, actionable plan.
Okay, let's deconstruct that for our listeners. Specific means clearly defined, not vague. So instead of saying, I want to lose weight, it's more like, I want to lose 10 kilograms. That's a huge difference right there, isn't it?
It's an enormous difference. Vague goals lead to vague efforts and vague results. Then, measurable means you can actually quantify your progress. How will you know if you're on track? With a specific weight target like 10 kilograms, you can literally measure it on a scale, or you could track body circumference measurements like your waist. Achievable is all about realism, setting targets that are challenging enough to inspire you, but not so ridiculously impossible that they lead to inevitable failure and frustration. You know, trying to lose 20 kilograms in a month is probably not achievable for most people and will only lead to disappointment. It's about finding that sweet spot between aspiration and reality. Relevant ensures your goal actually aligns with your overall health goals and your lifestyle aspirations. Is this goal truly important to you and your long-term well-being? Does it fit with your values? And finally, time-bound provides a deadline. This is a surprisingly powerful motivator. It creates a sense of urgency and helps you structure your efforts, maybe plan your steps backward from that deadline.
So the guide gives a perfect, concrete example of a SMART goal. I want to lose 10 kilograms in 3 months by eating at a 500-calorie deficit and working out 4 times a week. That really checks all the boxes, doesn't it? It's not just what you want to achieve, but clearly outlines how you're going to do it.
It absolutely does. 10 kilograms is specific and measurable. In 3 months makes it perfectly time-bound. And the part by eating at a 500-calorie deficit and working out 4 times a week outlines the achievable strategies and makes the goal relevant to the process. You're not just stating a wish, you're providing a clear, actionable roadmap for how you plan to achieve it. This level of precision is incredibly empowering because it turns an abstract desire into a tangible plan of action. And as the guide says, the more precise your goals, the easier it will be to track progress and stay motivated, because you know exactly what you're aiming for and the steps needed to get there. This really helps prevent that aimless wandering and eventual surrender that often plagues weight loss attempts.
That makes perfect sense. Setting yourself up for success right from the very beginning. Now let's talk about nutrition, which the guide rightly calls the unsung hero. We've already established that calories in versus calories out is the absolute foundation, the non-negotiable law of the land for fat loss. But the source stresses that what you eat is just as important as how much you eat. Why is that distinction so critical? Why can't I just, eat 1,800 calories of potato chips every day and expect optimal results, assuming I'm in a deficit?
That's a fantastic question, and it really gets to the heart of nutritional quality versus just quantity. It's critical because While the quantity of calories dictates whether you lose fat or not, deficit, remember, the quality of those calories dictates how well your body functions during that process. It affects your ability to maintain lean muscle mass, manage hunger signals, sustain energy levels, and ultimately support your overall health. You could theoretically be in a caloric deficit eating only potato chips, sure, but your body wouldn't have the necessary building blocks: adequate protein, healthy fats, fiber, vitamins, minerals to support muscle retention, hormonal balance, sustained energy for workouts, or even proper organ function. Your progress would likely feel miserable, your energy levels would probably crash, you'd be constantly hungry, and your overall health would likely suffer quite a bit. This is precisely where the macro playbook comes in, focusing on the type of calories you're eating, not just the number. So, first up, protein. The guide really emphasizes high-protein diets, and for very good reasons. Protein is crucial to preserve lean muscle mass during fat loss, and also to increase satiety, meaning it helps you feel full. When you're in a caloric deficit, remember, your body is looking for fuel. Without enough dietary protein coming in, it can unfortunately start breaking down your precious muscle tissue for energy. This is counterproductive, as we discussed, because muscle is metabolically active and helps keep your metabolism humming. Protein is also incredibly filling. It has a higher thermic effect of food, TEF, meaning your body actually burns more calories digesting protein compared to carbs or fats. And it helps you feel fuller for longer periods, which significantly reduces cravings and makes sticking to your calorie deficit much, much easier. The source recommends a specific, generally effective range for fat loss phases. Aim for 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. This is typically higher than standard recommendations for sedentary individuals, precisely because of its muscle-sparing and satiating benefits during a fat loss phase.
Okay, so protein is key for keeping your muscle and keeping you feeling full, which obviously helps you sustain that deficit. Makes sense. What about carbs? They often get a lot of bad press in certain diet circles, right? With entire diets dedicated to almost eliminating them.
Yeah, carbs definitely get demonized sometimes, unnecessarily so in many cases. They are crucial as your body's primary and most readily available source of energy for workouts and just general daily activities. The key, as the guide rightly points out, is to distinguish between the types of carbohydrates. It emphasizes choosing complex carbs like sweet potatoes, quinoa, and oats over processed foods. Complex carbohydrates, which are typically higher in fiber, provide a more sustained energy release. This means you avoid those sharp blood sugar spikes followed by energy crashes that often leave you feeling tired and hungry again soon after eating. They provide consistent fuel for your training sessions and help maintain mental clarity throughout the day. Processed carbs, on the other hand, think white bread, sugary cereals. Pastries are often quickly digested, leading to those rapid blood sugar fluctuations, leaving you feeling hungry again sooner, and potentially making it easier to overconsume calories or promoting fat storage in some contexts. So the difference really lies in their nutritional density, fiber content, and how your body processes them. It's all about making smart carb choices, not eliminating them entirely for most people.
Got it. Choose your carbs wisely. And then there are fats. Another macronutrient often feared because of its calorie density. Fat has more calories per gram than protein or carbs, but the guide emphasizes they are essential. It lists examples like avocados, olive oil, and nuts. Why essential?
Healthy fats are indeed essential for hormonal balance, which is incredibly important for a well-functioning metabolism and just a healthy body overall. Without adequate intake of healthy fats, your body can struggle to produce crucial hormones that regulate everything from your appetite and mood to your energy levels, and even how your body decides to store or burn fat. Think of it like the intricate wiring of a complex machine. Without the right connections, the right materials, nothing runs smoothly. Fats are also vital for absorbing certain vitamins, the fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, which play countless roles in your health. And yes, while they are more calorie-dense, healthy fats also contribute significantly to satiety, helping you feel fuller for longer, just in a different way than protein does. So it's really about choosing healthy, unsaturated, and polyunsaturated fats, like those found in avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil, fatty fish, and consuming them in moderation as part of your overall balanced intake.
So it's definitely not just about the big three macros then. The guy also mentions going beyond macros to consider micronutrients. Why should our listener care about these tiny components, the vitamins and minerals?
That's such a critical point, often overlooked when people get hyper-focused on just hitting their macros. Your diet absolutely needs to focus on more than just the macronutrients, which primarily give you energy. You also need to ensure you're getting plenty of micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, to support your body's functions. These micronutrients act as cofactors or assistants for thousands of biochemical reactions happening in your body every second. This includes reactions involved in energy production, fat metabolism, muscle repair, immune function, brain function, pretty much everything. Think of them as the tiny essential gears and lubricants that make the complex machine of your body run efficiently. Without sufficient amounts of them, your body simply can't operate at its peak performance. You might feel sluggish, become more prone to illness, and your fat loss efforts could actually be hampered. The guide, echoing sound general nutritional advice, suggests including a variety of colorful vegetables and fruits to ensure your diet is nutrient-dense. Different colors in fruits and veggies often indicate the presence of different types of vitamins, minerals, and beneficial antioxidants. So eating a diverse palette helps ensure you're getting a broad spectrum of these essential micronutrients, supporting overall vitality and actually making the fat loss journey feel better because you're properly nourished.
Okay, good advice, eat the rainbow. And finally, on nutrition, the guide touches on meal timing. It clarifies that meal timing is important for fat loss, but it's not as crucial as overall caloric intake. And it briefly mentions intermittent fasting as a strategy some people find success with. This is definitely a topic with a lot of conflicting information and strong opinions out there. Can you elaborate a bit more on the role of meal timing?
Yeah, this is a nuanced point, and the guide's clarity here is actually quite helpful. The overall caloric deficit remains king. That's the absolute non-negotiable foundation, as we've established. Whether you eat 3 square meals a day, 6 small meals, or restrict your eating to a specific window, the total calories consumed over the course of the day, or WIC, is what primarily dictates whether you lose fat. However, for some individuals, certain meal timing strategies, like intermittent fasting, IF, can be a useful tool. If it involves restricting eating to specific windows, a common one is the 168 method, where you fast for 16 hours and eat within an 8-hour window, say from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. For some people, this can be quite helpful simply for managing their overall caloric intake and maybe curbing late-night snacking or mindless eating. It's primarily a tool that can help achieve calorie restriction by simplifying eating patterns, reducing the number of opportunities to consume food and potentially overeat. Some people also report benefits like improved satiety during eating periods or better focus during fasting periods. But it's crucial to understand it's not some magic bullet that inherently burns more fat or bypasses the need for a caloric deficit. Rather, it's a strategy or a pattern of eating that can help some people achieve that necessary deficit more easily and sustainably. It really boils down to personal preference, lifestyle, and adherence. The best approach is always the one you can stick to consistently in the long run.
Okay, that clears things up. It's a tool, not magic. So we've laid the groundwork with the science, avoiding pitfalls, nailing the SMART goals, and dialing in nutrition. Now let's talk about exercise, truly the engine of transformation, as the guide calls it. The guide reiterates its dual role, both for creating an energy deficit and, crucially, for preserving lean muscle mass. It's not just about burning calories during the session, is it?
No, not at all. Exercise is really your accelerator in this whole journey. First, yes, it directly burns calories, which helps create or deepen that vital energy deficit, making it easier to hit your daily calorie target without having to restrict food intake quite as drastically. But equally important, maybe even more so in the long run, exercise particularly strength training signals to your body that your muscles are being used and are therefore valuable. This signal helps convince your body to preserve them during the fat loss process, rather than breaking them down for energy when calories are restricted. And as we know, preserving muscle is a major win for maintaining your metabolic rate and achieving better long-term results in body composition. This is where we need to look at both cardio and strength training, not as competing options, but really as complementary tools in your toolbox.
Right, starting with cardio, the fat burning tool. The guide highlights HIIT, which stands for High Intensity Interval Training. It calls HIIT an effective way to burn fat in a short period, involving these intense bursts of activity and rest periods. What's actually happening in the body during those intense bursts, and why is it considered so effective for fat loss, especially given the short duration?
Okay, so during HIIT, you're pushing your body close to its maximal effort for very short durations. Think all-out sprints on a bike, explosive jumps, rowing as hard as you can, followed by brief periods of lower intensity recovery or complete rest. This intense exertion rapidly depletes your body's immediate energy stores, primarily muscle glycogen, and it creates a significant oxygen debt. Your muscles are screaming for oxygen. This leads to a phenomenon known as the afterburn effect, or technically EPOC, which stands for excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. Think of it like this. your body has accumulated a significant oxygen debt during those intense bursts. So even after your workout is finished, your body continues to work overtime, consuming oxygen at an elevated rate. It does this to restore itself back to its normal pre-exercise state, replenishing energy stores, repairing muscle tissue, clearing out metabolic byproducts like lactic acid. And this recovery process requires energy, meaning your metabolism keeps elevated for hours after your workout, burning additional calories beyond what you burn during the actual exercise session. It's an incredibly time-efficient way to maximize calorie expenditure and also improve cardiovascular fitness, making it a really powerful tool, especially for people who have busy schedules and can't spend hours in the gym.
Wow, so it's like your body's own personal turbo boost, continuing to burn extra fuel even after the sprint is over. That really is a game changer for time-crushed individuals. But then there's the other side of the cardio coin, steady-state cardio. The guide describes this as low to moderate intensity cardio, things like walking or jogging at a consistent pace. It says this is great for burning fat without taxing your recovery. Why is this still relevant in the age of HIT mania?
Oh, it's incredibly relevant, and it offers really valuable complementary benefits. This type of cardio, often called low-intensity steady state, is beneficial precisely because it's sustainable and much less taxing on your central nervous system compared to HI8. While it doesn't generate the same intense EPRC or afterburn effect as HIIE, it allows you to burn a significant number of calories during the activity itself simply because you can typically sustain it for a longer duration. Think of a brisk walk for 45 or 60 minutes. That's consistent calorie burning happening right there. It's accessible to almost everyone, regardless of fitness level, and it's much easier to recover from day to day. It's also excellent for improving baseline cardiovascular health, can be great for stress reduction, and you can often incorporate it more frequently, maybe even daily, without risking burnout or overtraining, which can sometimes happen with too much high-intensity work. The key thing is that it perfectly complements strength training efforts. It helps improve your cardiovascular capacity, which supports your lifting, and it can even aid in active recovery between tougher workouts, allowing for optimal performance in your muscle building sessions. It's really about finding the right balance between different types of exercise in your overall routine.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about balance, not just intensity all the time. Which brings us back full circle to strength training, the metabolism booster. We talked about it being a mistake to ignore it, but now we're putting it squarely in the blueprint for success. Remind us again, how does it truly boost metabolism, and what are the key exercises the guide recommends focusing on?
Right, this is truly the foundation for building a long-term metabolic advantage, not just burning calories in the moment. As we mentioned earlier, strength training is an absolutely essential component of a successful fat loss plan. Why? Because by consistently challenging your muscles with resistance, you stimulate them to adapt by getting stronger and, ideally, growing or at least preserving muscle mass during a deficit. And here's the magic again. Muscle tissue is metabolically active tissue. This means that even when you are completely at rest, just existing, a pound of muscle burns significantly more calories than a pound of fat does just to maintain itself. So by building or even just preserving muscle through strength training, you effectively increase your resting metabolic rate, or RMR. That's the number of calories your body burns totally at rest, just keeping the lights on, breathing, circulating blood, brain function, etc. The more muscle mass you have, the higher your RMR becomes, meaning you're burning more calories 24/7, even when you're just sitting on the couch watching TV, or maybe most importantly, while you're sleeping and recovering. The guide specifically says to focus on squats, deadlifts, bench press, pull-ups, rows. Now, this isn't just a random selection of exercises. These are what we generally call compound movements. This means they work multiple muscle groups and involve movement across multiple joints simultaneously. For example, a squat works your quads, hamstrings, glutes, and core stabilizers all at the same time. A deadlift works almost your entire posterior chain and core. Because they engage so much muscle mass at once, these compound lifts tend to elicit a greater metabolic response, stimulate more muscle fibers, trigger a larger release of beneficial hormones like testosterone and growth hormone, which aid in muscle building and fat loss, and ultimately lead to greater overall calorie expenditure both during and after the workout compared to isolation exercises. They give you the most bang for your buck, essentially.
And the guide recommends a specific frequency for incorporating these powerful compound movements. Incorporate these exercises into your routine 3-4 times a week. That's a pretty consistent commitment, but it makes perfect sense given everything you've just said about building and maintaining that metabolically active muscle.
It is a consistent commitment, yes, and it's generally effective because it provides sufficient stimulus for muscle growth and adaptation, while also allowing adequate time for recovery between sessions, which is when the actual growth happens. This frequency allows you to effectively challenge your major muscle groups regularly without necessarily leading to overtraining, assuming your overall program is well designed and you manage recovery like sleep. By regularly engaging in these powerful compound movements, you're continuously sending that crucial signal to your body. Build and maintain this metabolically active tissue. This optimizes your body's ability to burn fat more efficiently over the long term. This consistency is truly the engine that drives that sustainable, transformative change we're aiming for. It's really about building a body that wants to burn fat, that's primed for it.
Okay, brilliant. We've covered the core science, how to avoid common pitfalls, and how to build that fundamental blueprint of goals, nutrition, and exercise. Now for our fourth segment, the edge factors, things that can provide a little extra help, like supplements, mindset, and support systems. Let's start with supplements. The guide sets realistic expectations right away, stating that while supplements aren't a magic solution, the right ones can aid fat loss by boosting metabolism, curbing appetite, and enhancing workouts. So they're positioned as a helping hand, definitely not a magic bullet that bypasses all the hard work.
That's such a crucial distinction, and one that's often completely lost in the marketing hype surrounding the supplement industry. They are designed to supplement literally to add to a solid foundation of consistent diet and exercise, not to replace it. That's key. If you're not consistently nailing your nutrition and training, supplements are likely to have a negligible effect, if any at all. Let's be clear about that. They simply cannot compensate for poor lifestyle habits. However, for individuals who already have a strong foundation in place and are maybe looking for that small additional edge, certain supplements can potentially provide some targeted benefits.
Okay, so the source lists some common examples: L-carnitine, green tea extract, whey protein, and caffeine. Just briefly, for our listeners, what are these actually doing in the body, specifically in the context of fat loss?
Okay, let's break them down quickly. L-carnitine is an amino acid derivative. The claim is that it helps with fat oxidation. Its primary known role in the body is to help transport long-chain fatty acids across the mitochondrial membrane, the mitochondria being the powerhouses of your cells where fat is burned for energy. So the theory is that supplementing with it might help your body access and burn stored fat a bit more efficiently, particularly during exercise. Research is somewhat mixed on its overall effectiveness for fat loss alone, but it's often included in pre-workout formulas. Then there's green tea extract. This is often known for its metabolism boosting effects. This effect is largely attributed to its potent antioxidant compounds called catechins, particularly one called EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate. These compounds have been shown in some studies to slightly increase calorie expenditure and potentially enhance fat oxidation, especially when combined with exercise. It's generally considered a mild effect, not dramatic, but potentially contributory. Whey protein, as we actually touched on earlier in the nutrition section, is fantastic. It helps in muscle recovery and can curb hunger cravings. This is due to its high-quality, easily digestible protein content and its well-documented satiating properties. It helps you meet your protein targets, supports muscle repair after workouts, and can significantly help manage hunger, making it easier to stick to that calorie deficit. It's a very convenient and effective tool. And finally, caffeine, a very common stimulant found in coffee, tea, and many supplements. It's described as a thermogenic agent that increases energy expenditure during exercise. A thermogenic agent basically means it can slightly increase your body's heat production and consequently calorie burning. Beyond that, caffeine is well known for its ability to boost energy levels, improve mental focus, and importantly, reduce your perception of effort during workouts. This can allow you to push a bit harder or go a bit longer during your training sessions, indirectly leading to more calories burned.
Okay, those are some potential benefits. But the guide, coming from the authors at Bold Brain Studio, offers a really crucial caution. Be cautious with supplements. Always prioritize a balanced diet and consistent exercise routine before adding supplements. This is like a really important disclaimer, especially given how much money people can end up spending on these products.
It absolutely is, and it raises that important question, why such a strong caution? Well, because the supplement industry is vast, it's constantly evolving, and frankly, it's not always rigorously regulated in the same way medications are. Many products out there make exaggerated claims that simply aren't backed up by solid, independent, scientific evidence. The guide's advice correctly underscores that real, sustainable, meaningful fat fat loss comes from the fundamental lifestyle changes we've been talking about, consistently optimizing your diet, your exercise, your sleep, your stress management. Those are the big levers. Supplements might offer a marginal benefit, maybe that extra 1-2% on top of that strong foundation, but they absolutely cannot compensate for a poor diet or an inconsistent training schedule. Prioritizing the basics ensures you're investing your time, your money, and your effort where it truly counts for lasting healthy results. It's really about building the house properly before you start thinking about the fancy decorations.
Right, build the house first. That makes perfect sense. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the mental game, overcoming obstacles and staying the course. The guide acknowledges something really important. Fat loss isn't linear, and plateaus are pretty much inevitable. They happen. This is exactly where so many people get discouraged, think they've failed, and maybe throw in the towel. So what do we do? What should you do when the scale just refuses to budge, even when you feel like you're doing everything right?
Yeah, this is indeed a major sticking point, a common frustration where many lose hope. The guide offers 2 key, very practical solutions. First, it says reassess your calorie intake. Now, what's fascinating here, and often missed, is that as you successfully lose weight, your body actually needs fewer calories to maintain its new, lighter self. Your maintenance calories decrease. It's simple physics, really. It's a smaller body requires less energy to operate and move around than a larger one. So the caloric deficit that was working perfectly when you weighed, say, 100 kilograms might not be a sufficient deficit anymore once you weigh 80 kilograms. You need to periodically recalibrate your intake, potentially reducing your calories slightly further or increasing activity to continue seeing progress and maintain that necessary negative energy balance. Many people plateau simply because they haven't made this crucial adjustment as their body changed.
Okay, so your calorie needs literally shrink as you shrink. It's not a static one-size-fits-all number that lasts forever. That's a key takeaway. And the second solution?
The second solution offered is to change up your workout routine. Remember how we talked about the body being incredibly adaptive? Well, your body gets used to the same exercises, so try switching it up with new movements or intensity. If you do the exact same workout, same exercises, same weights, same reps, same cardio routine, day in and day out for weeks or months on end, your body becomes incredibly efficient at performing those specific tasks. It burns fewer calories for the same amount of perceived effort, and it's no longer being challenged in a way that stimulates further adaptation, like muscle growth or improved conditioning. So, introducing new exercises, increasing the weight you're lifting, changing the number of reps or sets, adjusting rest periods, increasing the intensity of your cardio, or trying different types of training altogether, like incorporating more HI or changing your strength training split, can provide a fresh stimulus. This novel challenge can help kickstart progress again by forcing your body to adapt anew. It keeps your body guessing, so to speak.
Those are incredibly practical steps anyone can take to try and break through those frustrating plateaus. Good advice. But beyond just breaking plateaus, how do you stay motivated for the long haul? Because, as the guide implies, this isn't just a 6-week program, it's really about a lifestyle change. The guide suggests you should track your progress using things like progress photos, measurements, and fitness milestones. How does this help with motivation?
This is absolutely critical for the mental game and sustaining motivation, especially when the scale isn't cooperating. What's truly fascinating here is the psychological power you get from having objective, multifaceted feedback. The number on the scale can be incredibly misleading sometimes, right? It fluctuates daily due to water weight shifts, hormonal changes, whether you've eaten recently, or even if you're gaining muscle while losing fat, which is a good thing, right? But progress photos, taken consistently under similar conditions, allow you to visually see subtle yet often powerful changes in your body composition that the scale might completely miss, things like reduced bloating, increased muscle definition becoming visible, clothes fitting better, or just a leaner overall profile. Measurements like tracking your waist, hip, or thigh circumference with a tape measure can show you that you're losing inches, even if the scale hasn't budged much, which is often a better indicator of fat loss. And tracking fitness milestones like being able to lift a heavier weight, run a certain distance faster, complete more repetitions of an exercise, or simply noticing improved endurance or feeling stronger in daily life provides undeniable, tangible proof of your improved physical capacity. These non-scale victories, NSVs, are incredibly motivating. They serve as powerful reminders that you are making positive progress even when the scale seems stuck or if you're having a mentally tough day. They show you the deeper functional benefits of your consistent efforts.
Right, it's about seeing the transformation happening in many different ways, beyond just that single number on the scale. And then the guide suggests shifting the focus. Focus on habits, not just results. It stresses developing sustainable practices like meal prep, working out consistently, and getting enough sleep. This feels like it might be the core message of the entire guide, really.
It really does, and this raises an incredibly important question. Why should you focus on the habits rather than just the immediate result? Because the results you want, the fat loss, the improved health, the increased energy, are merely the outcome or the consequence of consistently executing the right habits day after day. Think about it. Meal prepping transforms healthy eating from a daily decision-making struggle into an easy, convenient default choice. It significantly reduces the chance of making impulsive, unhealthy choices when you're tired or stressed. Working out consistently builds momentum, reinforces your commitment to yourself, and makes exercise feel like a non-negotiable part of your routine, not just an optional chore you might skip. Prioritizing enough quality sleep supports optimal hormonal balance and energy levels, which, as we saw, makes everything else sticking to your diet, having energy for workouts, managing stress significantly easier. Over time, as the guide rightly points out, these habits will lead to lasting fat loss. You're not just chasing a temporary number on the scale, you're fundamentally building a sustainable, healthier lifestyle, brick by brick, habit by habit. This fundamental shift in mindset, from results-focused to process-focused, is absolutely foundational to achieving long-term, permanent success. It transforms fat loss from feeling like a finite, restrictive diet into simply being an integral, hopefully enjoyable part of your life. That's really the secret sauce for making it stick.
And that leads us perfectly to the final edge factor mentioned, the role of support systems. The source mentions the understanding within the guide that fat loss requires both physical effort and mental resilience. It's tough sometimes. And it specifically mentions how tools can help, especially in this age of digital assistance we live in.
Yes, they do. The guide highlights how technology can actually play a genuinely supportive role for some people. It mentions things like AI-powered content creation tools to help you stay motivated and track your progress, whether you need to create meal plans or workout schedules. These kinds of tools can help streamline the planning process, taking some of the mental load off, making it potentially easier to stick to your nutrition and exercise commitments by removing some of those common friction points. They also highlight how chatbot automation for fitness businesses, for example, can help with motivation reminders, meal tracking, and fitness guidance, making sure you stay on track every single day. These digital support systems aim to provide consistent encouragement, practical assistance when you need it, and maybe a gentle layer of accountability. They can help bridge that often difficult gap between knowing what you should do, intention, and actually doing it consistently, action, by offering personalized guidance, timely reminders, and easily accessible resources. They recognize that for many people, having those regular nudges, that readily available support, and quick answers to questions about their plan can make a significant difference, especially during those times when motivation inevitably dips or life gets chaotic.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like having those regular nudges and easy to access resources could make a big difference when motivation inevitably wanes, as it does for everyone. And now for some real tangible inspiration. Our final segment aims to bring all these principles to life with some real-life stories of transformation. These anecdotes from the source really show what's possible when you consistently apply these principles we've been discussing.
Absolutely. Hearing about others who have successfully walked a similar path can be incredibly motivating and provide that tangible proof that these strategies really do work in the real world. The guide shares Sarah's story. It says she lost 25 kilograms in 6 months by focusing on strength training and balanced nutrition. This powerfully highlights those core principles we just spent time on. The paramount importance of consistent strategic exercise with that emphasis on building or maintaining muscle via strength training, combined synergistically with mindful, nutrient-dense eating. It was likely the synergy of those two key elements applied consistently over 6 months that delivered such significant, life-changing results for her.
And it wasn't just about the general principles, was it? It was also about the tools and the personalized approach she adopted. The source notes, she used tracking apps and followed personalized advice from fitness experts.
Exactly. And this detail reinforces the value of both that measurable aspect of SMART goals we talked about, using tracking apps, and the potential role of support systems and informed personalized guidance. Tracking apps likely helped her accurately manage that crucial caloric deficit and perhaps her macronutrient intake, providing objective data. And following personalized advice from fitness experts probably ensured her program was tailored effectively to her individual needs, goals, and circumstances, helping her avoid common mistakes and navigate any specific challenges she encountered along the way. Her success story suggests it wasn't just about sheer effort, but about directed, informed effort, supported by the right tools and guidance for her situation.
Okay, great example. Then there's Tom's journey.
The guide tells us he had a sluggish metabolism. Now that sounds like a really tough starting point for anyone trying to lose weight, doesn't it? Feels like the odds are kind of stacked against you from the very beginning if you feel your metabolism is slow.
It certainly is perceived that way, and it often leads to deep frustration and even a sense of helplessness for people who feel like they barely eat anything but still struggle to lose weight. But his strategy for success, as described, perfectly illustrates that holistic, multifaceted approach we've been emphasizing throughout this whole deep dive. The source says, after improving his sleep, cutting out processed foods, and starting a height routine, he shed 20 kilograms and gained confidence. This combination showcases the critical impact of addressing those often neglected hidden saboteurs, particularly sleep. Improving his sleep likely helped optimize those crucial fat loss hormones, leptin and ghrelin, improving his appetite regulation and reducing cravings. Cutting out processed foods aligns perfectly with prioritizing nutrient-dense whole foods over hyperpalatable, often calorie-dense but nutrient-poor options that can sometimes contribute to metabolic issues or make calorie control harder. And starting a consistent height routine, as we discussed, provided that powerful metabolic stimulus and calorie burn, including the afterburn effect, helping to overcome that feeling of sluggishness.
So Tom's success wasn't really about finding one single magical solution, was it? It was truly about integrating multiple aspects of a healthy lifestyle simultaneously. He kind of attacked his perceived sluggish metabolism from several synergistic angles, creating a powerful ripple effect.
Precisely. His story, much like Sarah's, isn't about a single magic pill or some extreme, unsustainable crash diet. It's about thoughtfully combining several scientifically sound strategies, improving sleep hygiene, making better food choices, incorporating effective exercise, and then, crucially, applying them consistently over time. This provides a really powerful message of hope and, importantly, practicality for anyone facing similar challenges, especially those who feel their own metabolism might be working against them. Both of their transformations beautifully embody the core idea that consistency, combined with informed knowledge and a truly holistic approach that addresses diet, exercise, sleep, and probably stress too, is what genuinely leads to profound and, most importantly, lasting results.
So wrapping this all up, what does this mean for you, the listener, as you embark on or perhaps continue your own journey? Well, the conclusion of the guide, titled Your Fat Loss Journey Starts Now, really brings it all home. It recaps the core message very clearly. Embarking on a fat loss journey requires patience, strategy, and commitment. Those three words seem key.
They really are, and the guide is refreshingly honest, I think, in acknowledging that the road ahead may be tough at times. That's just reality, and it's important to manage expectations around that. But the reassurance it provides alongside that honesty is equally important. But if you understand the science, avoid common mistakes, and stay consistent, you will succeed. This shifts the focus away from just the potential difficulty and towards empowerment through knowledge, strategy, and perseverance. It's about feeling equipped for the journey because you have a clear map and the right tools.
It also really encourages taking a long view, doesn't it? Reiterating that fat loss is not about overnight transformation. It's about building a lifestyle that incorporates exercise, balanced nutrition, and mental resilience. It's truly presented as a complete overhaul, not just a quick fix or some temporary diet you go on and off.
Absolutely. That concept of building a lifestyle is the absolute key to making success sustainable, making it last. It moves beyond thinking in terms of short-term deprivation or restriction and towards creating habits that are genuinely integrated into your daily life, hopefully in ways you can actually enjoy or at least appreciate. It means finding ways to make balanced eating and consistent movement feel like a normal part of your routine, not just something you have to endure for a set period. This is how fat loss becomes permanent when it's simply how you live, rather than something you do temporarily. And the guide emphasizes the universal applicability of these core principles. Whether you're looking to lose 5 kilograms or 50 kilograms, the principles outlined in this guide will help you get there. The underlying human biology, the science of energy balance, the importance of muscle, hormones, consistency, those fundamentals remain the same, regardless of the scale of your goal. The guide concludes with a really powerful message of encouragement, reminding us, quote, "At Full Brain Studio, we believe in the power of consistency and knowledge, and we're here to help you on every step of your journey. Stay committed, and remember, you have the tools to achieve greatness."
And that's a truly powerful thought to leave you with today. If true, lasting fat loss is really about building sustainable habits and truly understanding your body's complex machinery. Then perhaps the greatest weight we can ultimately shed isn't physical at all, but maybe it's the burden of unrealistic expectations, the allure of quick fixes that never last, and the belief that magic bullets can somehow trump consistent, informed effort. So the question for you to ponder is, What deep-seated habits, perhaps beyond just the physical ones, but you truly need to unpack before you have to